Welcome everyone, this is On Just Restart, and this time we're going to be talking about the possibility for both the return of Break the Targets and Board the Platforms in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Could this actually happen? Let's talk about it. Okay, that's enough for now, Charmander. So, I'm sure most of you are actually here to hear about the possibility for both Board the Platforms and Break the Targets making it into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So both Break the Targets and Board the Platforms were introduced on Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64, and there's a few things that were really interesting about these modes. One, these modes, well, there was one particular stage for each character, and these modes granted you the ability to practice with your character and really master the different kinds of movement styles for each particular character, and I thought that was really cool. But another thing that really stood out to me in terms of just great game design was that these modes were shoved into Classic mode, which is basically Smash's equivalent to arcade mode for other fighting games. Now, another thing that was really interesting about these modes was that they offered a lot more variety within Classic mode. Classic mode being basically Smash's equivalent to arcade mode. And within this mode, you got to do a whole bunch of things aside from just your traditional Smash fighting, which is really cool. It really mixed up the gameplay, made things really interesting. And unfortunately, as we've gotten different Smash games over the years, Board the Platforms has entirely gone. It was only on Smash 64, and Break the Targets has become less and less of a thing. On Smash Bros. Wii U and 3DS, it was just basically targets on on a few stages that was just basically Angry Birds, and personally, that was just terrible. I didn't like it at all. Now, I'm not trying to say I didn't like Smash Bros. Wii U and 3DS, because I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought the core fighting engine for Smash Bros. Wii U and 3DS was incredible, but I felt like the modes surrounding that core fighting engine weren't very good. For example, Tournament mode, I just didn't like the direction they took Tournament mode in Smash Bros. Wii U and 3DS. And then Classic mode, well, it wasn't even Classic mode. There was nothing traditional about it at all, and I really didn't like it. So going into the beginning of this year, I was actually talking about the potential for Super Smash Bros. On the Nintendo Switch. I actually made some predictions before we even got the actual reveal or confirmation for Smash Ultimate. Back in January, I was talking about the possibility of them fixing up Tournament mode, making it more like what we got in both Brawl and Melee, and even bringing back the traditional Classic mode. And sure enough, in the Nintendo Direct where we got the reveal for King K. Rool and Simon Belmont, we got both of those things. Both the traditional Tournament mode and the traditional Classic mode, and that's incredibly exciting to me. And this brings me to one of my points. Both Classic mode and Tournament mode have been brought back from their traditional forms, and it almost seems like it's really playing to the idea of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate being kind of a celebration for video gaming history and Smash history, and appeasing to the fans more so than ever before. Smash Bros. Ultimate is the ultimate fan service game, more so than any other Smash Bros. Game. So it's not just about both Classic mode and Tournament mode being brought back, but we have all these different characters that are making a comeback. We're getting new characters like Isabelle, Simon Belmont, King K. Rool, and Ridley, and all of these different stages have been remastered. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate seems to be the game that's sort of celebrating the history of Smash Bros. And really bringing in the best of Smash Bros. Into this one game. So if that's the case, and we're getting back traditional things from Smash Bros. Like Classic mode and Tournament mode, maybe we'll even see the return for both Break the Targets and Board the Platforms. Could it happen? Maybe. So here's an interesting thing that might actually go against my point, but nevertheless I'm going to say it anyways for full transparency here. So when we got to see Classic mode, we got to see a still, and within that still, we saw the trajectory for the actual, set of levels in Classic mode, kind of like the way it worked back in Melee and Super Smash Bros. 64. But the thing is, we didn't actually get to see any sort of hints towards there being a Break the Targets or Board the Platforms. So does that mean that these modes aren't in the game? Not necessarily, but it could mean that. It may very well mean that they're not in the game. It's also possible that Sakurai was hiding the reveal for these modes, or it's also possible that they're in a separate mode altogether and not a part of Classic mode anymore. All of these are different possibilities. But here's the thing. I'm sure some of you may already think that these modes have basically been deconfirmed because they haven't been shown off yet, and we've already gotten a reveal for a whole bunch of different modes. But if you go back to the Direct where we got the reveal for all the different modes, all of these modes were all just about the Smash modes. They were just about one of the icons on the main menu. You know when Sakurai showed off that little green icon that was all blurred out that everyone's sort of assuming means spirits and is going to be probably for a single player mode? We also saw the Games and More section, and we didn't go into that at all. So what I'm thinking is that the Games and More section is going to be having all these different modes, and Sakurai intentionally didn't show that off because there's a lot of different modes to show off and reveal for later on, and all of them are not really related at all to your typical Smash Bros. Fights. So this could include things like Race to the Finish, Smash Tour, Smash Run, Board the Platforms, and Break the Targets, along with maybe Home Run Contest. We could see the return for all these modes. Will we see the return for all of them? I don't think that's likely. I think it's a lot to expect, especially because they might also include something new as well. But I think there's definitely a strong possibility that we could see the return for both Board the Platforms and even more likely Break the Targets. And the reason why I think Break the Targets is the most likely is because that mode has been a part of Smash Bros. For every single Smash game. Even Smash Bros. Wii U and 3DS, even though it was sort of just left off as kind of an Angry Birds mode, but nevertheless, it was in the game to some capacity, so I do expect Break the Targets to return in the more traditional sense, and hopefully they'll do something crazy and actually allow us to have an individual target stage for every single character, which would be a tall order, and maybe if that happens, we wouldn't get a lot of other modes like Race to the Finish or Board the Platforms, but it would be really nice to see something along those lines. Perhaps a really cool alternative could be that we have one actual stage for each actual series, and then what they do for each character is that they just move around the actual targets for each particular character to sort of balance things out. But then we still get the option to practice all these different target break stages for all these different characters for these different franchises, and I think it could be really, really cool. So, will we actually see the return for both Board the Platforms and Break the Targets? It's hard to say, I can't say with the utmost certainty. However, I do recognize that Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is all about celebrating the best of Smash Bros. And really appeasing fans and bringing back certain things that were really cool, like Tournament Mode, like Classic Mode, like Wolf, like Snake. So maybe even we'll see the return of some of these really awesome modes, and I think there's a pretty good chance that we'll at least see Break the Targets. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that we'll see these modes return in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate? Have you guys noticed any other clues that could potentially hint to them actually being in the game? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say, sort of debate about it, talk about it. I'm really excited for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Regardless of if these modes are in it or not, I think the game is going to be amazing, and I'm just incredibly excited. But that's all for now, everyone. Thank you so much for listening and watching. If you really enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, and if you're new here, make sure to subscribe. And regardless, make sure to hit that notification bell so you can see all of the content that's all about Super Smash Bros. And Nintendo. So stay here, stay tuned, and thank you so much for listening and watching. I really appreciate it. Anyways, everyone, I'll see you really soon. Bye.